25 minutes, 3 wins, LCS.
We have ourselves a second new team, ladies and gentlemen. It is KMT. Welcome to NA, and they sweep their way into the LCS.
Congratulations, guys. Give it up for Team Curse.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2014 LCS Preview Show. We are excited to be here, and we are your hosts, Rivington Bislam III and Joshua Jat Leesman. I think one of the most things that I am excited about is that we get to rep 2 new studios here, and the participation of the fans is going up by the tens of the thousands potentially over the course of the season that they get to come and watch the shows.
If we take a look at where we came all the way from last year to 2 years ago to 3 years ago, I mean, the places we're going are really exciting.
All right, so coming up in just under 30 minutes, the 2014 European LCS Spring Split kicks off with 6 huge games.
Yeah, all 8 teams take to the Rift today, beginning with the battle of the preseason favorites as the Summer Split champs Fanatic are actually going to take on the reunited Gambit.
And then on Friday, the 2014 NALCS split kicks off with 6 huge games of their own. The season takes off with a fight between the North American heroes from the Battle of the Atlantic, Meteos and Cloud9 versus Bjergsen and Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, the NALCS Spring Split launches on Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central European Time.
And as you may have noticed by our schedule for the opening week of the 2014 Spring Split, this season, the European and North American League Championship Series have swapped broadcast days.
Throughout the season, our normal LCS weeks will feature the European LCS games on Thursdays and Fridays, starting at 7 p.m. Central European Time.
And that, of course, means that the North American LCS games will be kicking off on Saturdays and Sundays throughout the season at 12 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, and as always, you can head over to lolesports.com for a full breakdown of the schedule throughout the year.
And now that you know when to tune in, let's send it across the Atlantic to Cologne, Germany, where D-Man and Quickshot are going to join us for a quick look at the European LCS. What's going on, guys?
Thank you very much, Riv and Jat, and it is awesome to be able to talk to you guys live as well. I am, of course, Lee D-Man Smith, and alongside me, once again, is Trevor Quickshot Henry. It is finally time to start talking about the 2014 season of the European LCS.
Yeah, we're going to break down all 8 teams in just a second, but I really have to emphasize, they're on the other side of the world, we're here, and we're talking to each other. This is freaking awesome.
This is awesome. Of course, now let's take a look at the 8 teams that are vying for the Spring Split crown. The 4 teams that qualified thanks to their Season 3 performance are Fnatic, Gambit Gaming, Alliance, and Millennium, the team that were formerly known as Alternate.
And of course, joining them are the 3 teams that locked down their spot in the Spring Promotion Tournament. The Copenhagen Wolves, SK Gaming, and Roccat, the team that was named KMT when they shocked the Ninjas in Pajamas. And then, of course, there is the super hot crew, who earned their place in the LCS after winning a best-of-3 series last weekend against Meet Your Makers to actually take the Lemon Dog spot.
So, of course, they are the 8 teams, but as you guys may be aware, there has been a hell of a lot of player movement amongst those teams. Let's talk about them.
Well, we're going to break them down with each individual team, and I think the most recent development is also one of the most disappointing ones. The Lemon Dogs went from finishing first in the regular season of the Summer Split and earning a trip to Worlds to non-existence. It all started with the departure of the 5 players from the World Championship team. Then their new replacement roster was crushed in the Battle of the Atlantic. And following all of this, the Lemon Dogs failed to submit a finalized and valid roster with all necessary paperwork by the league deadline, which actually meant they forfeited this spot. And it is a tragic story for one of the best teams of the European LCS from the Summer Split.
And of course, 3 of those Lemon Dog players ended up at Ninjas in Pajamas, who were hoping to win their way back into the LCS through the Spring Promotion Tournament. They got to choose which challenger team they wanted, and they chose to face KMT. And that proved disastrous for Ninjas in Pajamas.
Yeah, it was an understatement of note. KMT shocked everybody. All of the casters, the teams, they swept NIP 3-0 and earned that spot in the LCS. Well, they'll actually be competing here today under a new name, calling themselves Roccat.
Yeah, and of course, another new team this year's LCS Spring Split is Alliance. And of course, while the name is new, you may well recognize several of the players.
Just a few of them. The core of the team started with Froggen and Wicked. They acquired their old team's LCS spot, and they actually joined forces with former Lemon Dog AD carry Tabs. They also roped in the Copenhagen Wolves jungler Shook to form what is considered the super team.
Yes.
And at Battle of the Atlantic, Kazmich played support for them, but it's actually going to be Nif, who is their starting support for 2014 and throughout the spring split, who of course played for SK last year.
And of course, there was a lot of hype leading up to the Battle of the Atlantic, and they certainly lived up to it. They dispatched of Dignitas, I think is a PC way of saying it. I think destroyed would probably be more realistic. Of course, however, there was one more team that did not live up to the hype leading into the Battle of the Atlantic, and that was the European champions, Fanatic.
Yeah, well, Fnatic had a great Season 3. They won the spring and summer splits. They made it to the semi-finals of Worlds, and like you've highlighted, once Worlds ended, it kind of went downhill a little bit.
Yeah, and of course, this is the season that they've added the AD carry, the Phenom, Reckless, the man that's been waiting a year to join the fold. And honestly, it's a team that dominated Europe. Can they be even stronger?
Well, they have to prove it. You know, they ran into a lot of problems during Battle of the Atlantic. They got swept by Cloud9. They didn't look on point at all. And Cloud9 is the same team that they beat at Worlds. So with this addition of the Phenom, not really working out so far.
And finally, of course, we have to talk about the team that is considered to be the strongest team in Europe right now. It is the men in suits, Gambit Gaming.
Yeah, Gambit is back together once again. This is the team that dominated Europe under the name Moscow 5, and they've continued their winning ways. They crushed at IAM Cologne, they dominated at XTG in the Battle of the Atlantic, and they're playing the first game here against Fnatic today.
And of course, that is our view of what is going to be happening throughout this season. But now let's take a pros view, because joining us is the new member of Alliance, Nif.
Hello, everyone.
I'm great to have you here, Nif, to start with. How are things going in Alliance? Obviously, you've joined, you've got a new AD carry alongside you. How's the team gelling coming into the 2014 season?
So far, it's really going good. We have been in the gaming house for 2 weeks now, and things working out really good so far. Scrims going good. We had even trouble to find some scrims that one day, so we will see.
Talk to us a little bit about Tabs now. You know, you've been playing with Candy Panda for such a long time. Now you're changing to new AD carry. How has it actually been adjusting to his play style?
Actually, the playstyle is pretty similar. Both play kind of the same carries, can pretty much play every carry they want. So they play the carries to fit the meta, so they play the same. And also the playstyle they have, if you give them some kills, they can actually carry from the bot lane. And if they snowball, it's really easy to win the games.
And in terms of strength, you know, obviously you guys have been having a lot of scrims. You just talked about how you weren't able to get one day. I did see how that worked out, but you've continued to build team synergy. In terms of teams you've been playing, how do you judge Alliance Source sitting in amongst them all?
I think we will be the strongest team, to be honest.
Ooh, strong words. So let's look at the other 7 then, who you're basically saying are fighting for second. How do you rate other teams like Gambit, like Fnatic, like Millennium as well, or even teams like Copenhagen Wolves? Who should we as the viewers be looking out for?
I still guess that Fanatic and actually only Gambit will be really hard. All the other teams, it's really hard to judge right now because a lot of teams has changed. We haven't scrimmed all games. We will play like against 4 teams actually, so we don't want to scrim them before. But what we saw, that they all have pretty much the same, and really depends on how the games go here.
And obviously you were in the Battle Atlantic yourself. You weren't part of Alliance, but you saw all the teams performing. How do you judge Europe versus America right now? How do you see any of the big American teams? Because of course you got Bjergsen gone over and joined TSM and made them stronger.
Yeah, we lost, unfortunately, 2 European players to NA. I still think we are stronger overall. It was kind of unlucky with the battle that they won the 2 games with 3 and 2 points. So it can change a lot.
Well, if you were to redo some of those matchups now, you know, talking about the like Gambit, Vulcan, things like that, how do the American teams level up their game? Because we've seen so many one-sided squashes from everybody. What do they have to do on this patch to actually level it up?
I think a lot of passive rooming to do in this patch, and play aggressive jungle. So if you get this, I think the games are still pretty snowbally. So if you get the early advantage, you can just snowball. It just takes longer to finish the games actually.
And finally, of course, moving into the LCS spring split, what is your predictions? Do you put yourselves at number 1? Do you see anyone else challenging you?
I put us at first, and after all, everyone can be second.
Well, thank you very much, Nif. It's great to have you here, and best of luck with the games, obviously, that are going to be coming up. So, we've asked the pro players' predictions. We want to know, Trevor, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is your prediction for the 2014 spring split?
I hate these loaded questions because there's so much to answer, but I think the obvious answer is that Alliance and Gambit is most likely going to be 1 and 2 for the spring split. I think that looking at Fnatic and Millennium will be my 3 and 4, And the teams to keep an eye out for to challenge things up will be the likes of the Copenhagen Wolves, maybe KMT also, who are playing under the name Rocket. So that's going to be my top 6.
Okay, well, we'll see whether history reproduces itself. Obviously, Fnatic versus Gambit in that spring split last year. And with that, we've got to prepare for the opening day of the European spring split. That's kicking off in just under 15 minutes time, ladies and gentlemen. So now let's send it back over to Los Angeles to Rivington and Jan.
Thank you very much, D-Man and Quick Shot. We'll be back with you guys a little bit more. But, well, tonight will be the first time that the European LCS teams take to the Rift in 2014 to face off against each other and their league mates. They did get a chance to fight their LCS counterparts in the Battle of the Atlantic back in December, however.
Yeah, and while the stars from the two regions were all gathered in our LCS studios, we had them share their thoughts on their LCS counterparts in the upcoming spring split.
The most exciting thing for NA is going to see how the EU players transfer to NA is going to develop.
It'll be really fun to see if EU guys can show that you are the best still.
There's Bjergsen and TSM. Reginald was a shot caller, and Bjergsen is really good at making plays, but now he gets to test his shot calling as well. So how they react to the NA's system of working is going to be really, really interesting.
It's mostly fun to see what champions being played in different regions, like EU players maybe think something is OP, but in NA it might consider it really bad, so I think that's like a really fun part about LCS.
For the EU scene, I still think Fnatic's going to be really good, since Reckles is a great farmer, high mechanical skill, and he can carry the game by himself.
I'm excited to see how Alliance plays. Froggen's a really good player, so I'll be excited to see how he plays and how he works along with Shook, who's one of Europe's top junglers.
Honestly, the new teams excite me the most. The Polish team that just qualified with a 3-0. I just really want to see how they do against the more established teams.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the European scene flourish from the ground up. Teams like your Gambits and your Fanatics and your Now Alliance and things like that, they really have to watch out because these new teams are eager to get in. We saw it last season with Cloud9 coming in, and we've seen it with Lemon Dogs coming in as well. Like, these teams are really, really strong teams, and the players in them individually are really, really strong.
And I have to stick with Yellow Pete on this one. The fresh new teams are what excites me coming into this. They have so much want, and they're so hungry for these wins that a lot of these teams have seen, kind of going in, and the passion may not be there.
Yeah, well, the thing I really want to see is if the passion's still there for some of these guys. I mean, the Snoopy, Yellow Pete, Crepo team that is now kind of requalified, maybe a bit new fire. Voyboy now playing mid lane for the first time over on Curse Gaming. Got the new guys, got the old dogs, and then you have like the #1 team in Cloud9.
See if you can teach them new tricks.
Yeah.
We'll have to take a look at the 8 teams right now that will be fighting for the Spring Split crown here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, 5 of the teams actually got their 2014 spots during last year's playoffs at PAX Prime, including the Summer Champs Cloud9. After that, Team Solo Mid, XGG, which was formerly known as Vulcan Gaming, still have the same logo, as well as Dignitas and Counterlogic Gaming are all in the mix.
And winning their way in during the 2014 Spring Promotion Tournament were Curse, Team Coast, and the Evil Geniuses. And while 7 of the 8 teams from the Summer Split back here, and we have 7 of the 8 teams back in the Summer Split, Jack, we saw big moves in the teams, just like in Europe.
And nothing was bigger than TSM picking up Bjergsen. That was the most celebrated move of the offseason. I mean, TSM lost their main shot caller in Reginald, but fans could not be more excited about what they've coined the Burger King and him bringing his talents to Manhattan.
And how does that work as we have this patch, or meta actually, on mobility, when the strat caller kind of needs to be omnipresent? Now that Bjergsen can have that in middle, it could help TSM.
Yeah, I've also heard that the Odd Ones really picked up his game. They used to call him the general, even though Reginald was really the general of the team. Now it's actually shifting a little bit back to the Odd One, and it's kind of his chance to step up because Bjergsen, we know he brings the mechanics and the lane dominance, but it's a very young kid. He's never really led a team before. He's going to work up towards that role, but the Odd One's going to help him along.
We'll see if he can take command right away. Another move that got fans excited was the return of Counterlogic Gaming bot lane, that Rush Hour.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a CLG remake yet again. They're bringing their Rush Hour bot lane back. Aframu and Doublelift are going to team up again in bot lane. But also, they have a European import of their own, pending his travel issues if he can be here for week 1. They said, CLG, that Dexter will definitely be there for week 2. We might see some Hotshot GG jungle in the first week, but you never know.
And how do we feel, focusing on the bot lane right now, that it's going to do? Because it didn't produce amazingly stellar results before, and there's still change-ups coming into the team, so it means everybody has to work together.
I know. Doublelift seems very content, and putting up numbers in a sense, but he might have to pull off a little bit more early aggression and take some more risks, because a lot of these games, he's so concerned about his farm that sometimes he's hurting the rest of his team in that sense. I do think they have a lot of growth to do. They need to be able to play more aggressive in 2v2 lanes and create some pressure for their team if they want to be successful.
Get the wins in early so it doesn't have to go 50 minutes. One of the most anticipated matches of the spring promotion tournament was the North American debut of Snoopy, Yellow Pete, and everyone's favorite scumbag support, Crepo.
Absolutely. Evil Geniuses, the old Evil Geniuses, you just remove the solo lanes and put in 2 young guns there in Pobelter and Inox in the mid and top lane. And that's the new Evil Geniuses. They did a fantastic job in that promotion tournament, 3-0ing the competition. But now they're playing against the big boys. They got to play Cloud9, TSM, all these top American teams, and we'll really see how they end up faring.
And one thing we always point out is the experience of being on that stage and the stress. But is it going to be enough with, you know, coming in with having all the knowledge that Crepo and Yellow Pete and all those guys have? Is it enough for the best of ones?
So it's interesting because I feel like that experience was huge in the promotion tournament.
Yes.
They were calm and primed, and they had actually been losing a lot of their scrims and not really being that confident going in, but they had that experience. And now that the teams that they're playing in the LCS will also have that, I, for EG's sake, hope that Snoopy, Crepo, and Yellow Pete keep their motivation, because it did seem like it just faltered a little bit during Season 3 when they were over in Europe, and they're going to need to have that kind of fire inside of them that got them through the promotion tournament, the whole split.
They're definitely a team with stable minds. You know, Snoopy actually at one point, it's hard to do as a player, said, I'm going to step down and come back. So these guys know exactly what to do to get the team in a forward motion.
Sometimes they don't even blink.
Sometimes they don't even blink. So another team that fought their way out of the promotion tournament and into the LCS, and fans are happy. Once again, Curse is happy. They're back in.
Oh, yeah. Curse ended last season on a pretty sour note. Therefore, they made substantial substitutions in every lane. The most notorious one was St. Vicious moving out of the jungle into the coaching role, which actually brings I Will Dominate off the bench and into the starters role.
St. Vicious wasn't really the only long-time member here that was departing from Curse.
Yeah, long-time mid laner Jackie is actually gone. Voyboy's moved into the mid lane spot after that because they think he can make more plays there. There's also Quas in the top lane, who's supposed to be this prodigy that has actually done very well so far. And then that's not all. Zekant filled in the shoes of Edward when he went back to Gambit Gaming. They're really a completely retooled team.
So now you have to think, how difficult does this become for them? Because sometimes you're like, it's easiest to just switch out one person, but when you have a completely new team, do you start from the ground up, or you still try to get those cultural points that you believe in going?
I know, it's really tricky for them. I think for the most part, they're trying to play it as a new team. They have a lot of new team compositions that they've been trying to run through. They were the only team that ran Jungle Wukong, I believe, in North America. Voyboy really has to adapt his champion pool a little bit so far. They're still going through those new team growing pains, even though Curse is such an established League of Legends brand.
And I've always kind of wanted this because they are a team that Quaz and Voyboy can swatch. How much of a factor do you think that is for a team?
The fact that they can just switch lanes?
Yeah.
I think it comes into play only a little bit. It's funny. You'd think there might be more value in kind of swapping players and lanes, but I don't think there's that much. It makes their champion pools a little bit bigger, but since they're already such obscure champions in the first place, I think it only adds a little bit of a level of complexity to their team.
All right. And the last roster adjustment we have to touch on heading into the 2014 season is that of Team Dignitas.
Yeah, Dignitas surprised many people when they decided to move the LCS Death record holder Kiwi Kid to the bottom lane and let him try his hand at support. They also brought in Cruiser then to fill the void in top lane to try and get some consistency in that role. But Riv, even with all of the roster changes, Dignitas relies so heavily on Scar for success that he is the one that's going to have to pick up his game if they want to find victory.
So Crumbs is going to have to think for Scar now, for top lane, and Scar is really going to have to, like you say, do more work for everybody. It almost becomes a little bit tougher, but everybody's working with those changes right now.
Yeah, I mean, think back to when they started the split with all those victories, or had the winning streak, sorry, in the middle of the spring split.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Scar was dominating in a lot of those games.
And he was, yes, playing his normal champion pool. So he
Diana.
can do it again. But for now, for more information on the North American split, I'd like to welcome Cloud9's Hi to the set. Cloud, thank you for joining us.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. You happy to be back?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play.
First off, before we get it started, I want to know how a North American top League of Legends player spends this holiday.
Well, for Thanksgiving, I went home and spent time with my family and my girlfriend, but then I came back for after Christmas. Yeah, after Christmas. and I played a lot of solo queue. I got kicked out of like the top 10 in Challenger during Worlds, and that kind of upset me. And I got kicked out again for being inactive again. So I've been trying to climb back up there, even though it's the preseason. I'm like halfway there. I'm like 500 points in. So I've just been spamming solo queue to try to get back there.
Yeah, and you're actually the only North American team to not make a roster swap or change. Why did you guys decide to stay pat, and how do you feel you guys are going to be going in with it?
Well, when a team goes 25-3, for the most part, you normally don't want to do a roster change because you did pretty well, and we all like each other anyway. So we didn't see a reason to change rosters. We did well. We like each other. And what is there to change right now? If we go like 0-28 this split, then maybe I could see us doing something, because that'd kind of suck. But we did pretty well, and we're hoping to keep that up.
So obviously keeping the winning focus going on, what do you guys focus on over the holiday, being 25-3 out of the splits? How do you get better?
Well, you just forget about how you did last split. That doesn't matter anymore. That's part of the past. Whatever we did was then, and we have to look towards this split. We wanted to play a lot of solo queue, work on mechanics, learn the new champions because of the new patch, and just make sure our game is at the top level. So we're trying our best to become good again, or like become the best. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of the things you were saying last year when you kind of exploded on the North American scene was a lot of the copying of the Korean scene and maybe just, oh yeah, we're just watching a lot of OGN, but that's changed a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
How you're preparing.
So even though we said that in the beginning split, I personally don't watch that much OGN. We didn't watch too much of it. We liked watching it, obviously, because you pick up what you can. But since we were a patch ahead of them for a while, we have to learn things on our own, do things on our own. And since basically a long time now, we've been doing our own thing, trying to be Cloud9, I guess, a Korean copycat.
So walk me through some of your preparation coming into the split now.
Well, you have to play a lot of solo queue. Like, I can't stress that enough. You literally need to, like, usually the best teams will be the teams that play the most, just because they enjoy the game, they play the most, they understand what's strong and what is weak. So if you're in solo queue, something cheesy happens to you, then you find out, like, hey, this is pretty good. You could try it out in a scrim. And you just get to see everything that the game has to offer, every patch and every champion and every player. So you just pick up things and go from there.
Well, how many times do you kind of have to challenge that in a scrim and say, all right, this is or is not going to work?
Well, we have to agree that it looks somewhat good in the first place. Like, I can't just pick up some random mid, like a Darius mid, for example. I can't just be like, hey, guys, I saw this in solo queue. He beat me up. Let's do it. They'd probably be like, no, that probably sucks, and you just suck. And then I couldn't do it. But if it's something like crazy, maybe like a Zillion mid or something that could actually be pretty good, they'd be like, all right, we'll try it out. As long as it makes sense on paper, then we can probably put it into practice. But, yeah.
Talking about making sense on paper, you guys have recently added a new analyst. How's that working out for you?
Right. So we got a new analyst, Charlie, actually. He is actually really good. He's the analyst for the European Cloud9 team as well that we just picked up recently. He fills the roles of what Alex needs to do, and he actually does a very good job on it, and he gives us a lot of information we don't know before. Like, I was playing a few champions, I'm just learning them, and he tells me like these cool little tips about them that I didn't know beforehand. I'm just like, oh, that's actually pretty useful, and like he gives a lot of good information. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he's coming across the pond a bit. He's doing European analysis and North American analysis. That happened a little bit with the roster moves as well. There, with all the 7 teams that moved, was there a team that had the best roster moves, you think, in the offseason in North America?
I think the team that got the strongest so far from a roster change was probably Team Solo Mid. Bjergsen coming over from Europe into the addition of TSM. They've become really strong since last split. They all started playing solo queue a lot more. I run into the odd one a lot. He's been playing a ton. Especially stopped playing Guild Wars 2 and started playing a lot again. And they're just like all spamming solo queue, and so is Bjergsen. And it's just becoming a so much better team just because they're putting effort into it now. And they're just trying to become the best again.
And you've actually been up against Bjergsen quite a lot. Do you want to talk about that experience?
Right. So when I first came back from my trip in Vietnam, which was when he just came over to America, I actually had to play versus him a lot, and I was getting dumpstered because I didn't play in a long time. And like it was like on Reddit, and I was getting like killed a lot. So that kind of sucked. But I've been doing better over the weeks, obviously, and it's very interesting playing versus him. I learned a lot from him. So
who do you think on the team coming into improvements has made the best? Over the break, who are you excited for people to see coming up?
Oh, for teams?
For at least you, for your team.
For our team? I don't know. So from my own perspective, I can't really tell if one of my players drastically improved because we weren't necessarily bad beforehand anyway. So it's like I can't see us going from like bottom to the top because it's hard for me. But like for other teams, for example, I think people are underestimating like say Team Coast. They're actually really good. They play a lot of solo queue. They got the new analyst, Alex Penn, actually. And what they lacked last season was a good pick and ban phase. They've always been kind of lackluster in that. They've had some good ones, but majority of them were pretty bad. But we've done picks and bans with Alex before, and he knows what he's doing. So with the addition to him to the team, they're going to be a really strong team, top 4, I imagine. And then it's just a lot of teams are getting stronger, and everyone's just starting to play more. And I think they enjoy the game more, so it's going to be an interesting split.
Was there any offseason moves that actually surprised you when you saw the team do it?
Yeah, so for Dignitas, actually, I was kind of surprised they got Cruiser the Bruiser for top, and they sent Kiwi Kid to support. I've always thought Kiwi Kid was a pretty good top laner personally, and no offense, but I don't think Cruiser is a giant improvement from what Kiwi Kid did top anyway.
Interesting.
I think Dignitas had different issues rather than their players, but I guess if they know better than I do, of course, on what is wrong with their team, so I imagine they just did what the best is for them, and hopefully they can pull through and become a super strong team too.
All right, Hi. Nif said it would be Alliance in Europe. Your prediction for the top team in North America at the end of this split?
My prediction for their top team, I'm going to have to say Cloud9. I can't not root for my team. Even if that's not true, I'm rooting for us.
Yeah.
All right, Hi. Thank you very much for joining us, waking up so early. Best of luck in the start of the season. Hope you guys can repeat last year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Jat, looking at these, seeing what the predictions are, what are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little boring, but I would just agree with Hi, but I do think Cloud9 is the strongest team, even if they're often very humble. I remember last time in the summer split, after they won 3 games, they said, well, we're going to go 3-25. Even if he's talking himself down, Cloud9 is going to be ready to play. And I think Hi has actually been the most improved player on their team, so that's good stuff.
Well, I won't say your crystal ball is broken. It might be foggy. But I'm, like I said, at the beginning of the show, I'm excited about these teams. I even, piggyback on Yellow Pete in the interviews there. I like the fresh new teams, and I think Curse is going to have something to bring to the table. They had a Season 1 run that was very good. They are revamped, but they still have the knowledge of those players that were there on the team on the backside. So we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, you're nothing if not bold with that prediction. But, I mean, new teams can always pull off stuff. That's how Cloud9 was good last split.
And we'll see what happens. All right, guys, we're just moments away from the start of the 2014 LCS season. But before we get to this year's games, let's take a look back at the 5 biggest plays from Season 3 of the LCS.
Starting it off at number 5, we have Wild Turtle with his ace in the hole from across the map.
Turret as well, and they didn't even lose their mid.
Oh, that cell division, such a strong.
Oh, God, no! The base from downtown!
Wild Turtle from the half-court line.
At number 4, we have Genja flashing over everything for the double kill.
Chain of corruption on towards Genja. Used the arrow, but he flashed around it. Nicely played from Genja there. Now he turns his attention to Nip. Piercing arrow back up, gets the double kill.
Coming in number 3 at an uncommon event, Double Lift finds himself on the other side of a face check, and he goes for the double lift, double tumble, double kill.
2 members, more than he expected.
Just dives right on in. Oh, he flashes the crescendo, goes in on Psycho Sid, gets knocked back. This could be the kill for Double. He gets 1. Any lifesteal Bloodbladder, it's going to be close. He might get 2.
God!
Oh, double lift, double kill. And now Xmithy has no mana. Oh, that just happened.
At number 2, we have Alex Siege Goomba stomping all over Evil Geniuses for the pen.
It's going to be a bunch of damage on the Genja. Froggen in the middle finds the loot ult as well. There's the unstoppable force used on the Genja, but he does not go down. Froggen's really under pressure. Legendary Alex Siege finds 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it going to be 5? I can't actually tell. Everyone is dead, and it is. It's a pentakill.
Coming in at number 1, a moment that will forever give you goosebumps. CLG versus TSM in the base race, the Nexus and Nien's defense.
Nien, the only man alive, but minions are knocking on the door of TSM.
Freak, TSM wants to backdoor this entire base with Nien up, but the minions would end the game on TSM's base.
And here we go, Nien, can you be a hero? The Nexus will die so fast. The last
TSM's Nexus is naked.
It's taking so much damage. Can Wild Turtle out-damage a bunch of minion waves? Nien goes in. He finds Wild Turtle. Wild Turtle goes down. Double kill. Triple kill for Nien. And the minions will try to end the game. Cyrus, can you do it? More damage.
There are so many minions right now.
The minion waves respawn
and buy
a little bit of time. But it's not enough. Counter Logic Gaming in 60 minutes. The minions backdoor the base.
I don't even know what to say.
A moment that gives you absolute chills every time, and we only have more seasons to create more moments in front of us.
Yeah, and I still don't know what to say at the end of that play because it was just ridiculous ending.
All right, guys, that's it for the preview show. Now it's finally time for the start of the 2014 LCS Spring Split.
this Alliance team. It looks strong. SK solidifies and puts themselves back into the LCS.
This was world-beating, top-quality Gambit gaming.
The Spring Split champions and the Summer Split champions, Fnatic, the reigning champions of Europe.
Welcome to the start of the 2014 League of Legends Championship Series, live from Cologne, Germany. I am, of course, Leading Man Smith, and alongside me, Trevor Quickshot Henry once again. And it is great to be back here in the LCS studio to kick off the 2014 Spring Split. The road to the Summoners Cup begins right here.
And it all begins with the 8 European LCS teams battling through 16 matches over the next 3 days in front of this very energetic crowd. And the excitement continues through the weekend as the North American LCS kicks off with a 16-game Super Week of their own on Friday.
Don't worry, guys. They'll wake up soon. Don't worry. Now, of course, we have today's game. Let's check them out. It is going to be Fnatic versus Gambit. That will be game 1 starting very soon. Then it's going to be the Copenhagen Wolves up against the new Alliance. Then the Super Hot Crew, they only qualified on Saturday. They're going to be up against Roccat, who were formerly known as KMT.
The second half of the day will once again feature Alliance, this time taking on Fnatic, followed by Gambit taking on the Wolves. And the last match of the day, SK Gaming versus Millennium for both of their respective first performances. If you want any more information about the schedule and all the latest stats, team information, recaps, VODs, anything, head over to lolesports.com.
And of course, speaking of lolesports.com, well, the website is just relaunched with a brand new look. You should definitely check things out there. And while you're there, let us know which teams you think will be coming out on top in today's matches. Just click on the schedule near the top of the page. Give us a thumbs up on what teams you believe have what it takes to win.
And of course, if you want to join us here live in the studio, you can grab yourselves a seat by clicking on the tickets link to get all the information and buy yourselves a ticket to attend.
Yeah, and of course, we'd also love to hear what you guys at home have to say on Twitter. Head over to @LOLEsports and tell us which European LCS Pro are you looking forward to watching this week and why?
I'm copying a little bit, and I'm going to say all of them, but that's because we get to watch all the games. But for you guys at home, make sure you use that hashtag LCS. If you don't, we won't be reading your airs later on the show.
Reading
your
airs?
tweets later on the show.
Read some airs. We love to read airs, ladies and gentlemen. But while, of course, you do that, we'll send things over to Shox and the newest member of our European LCS broadcast team, Martin Deficio Linger.
Thank you very much, D-Man. I'm just so excited to be back here. I'm Evie Shox alongside Deficio and also Alliance's Froggen. And I'd like to take this moment just to welcome you into the broadcast team for this weekend. How does it feel to be around this side of things?
It feels absolutely amazing. It's a dream coming true, and yeah, I'm just going to enjoy it.
But we're not going to let you relax. We're going to pick your brain immediately because we're here with these two gentlemen to talk about the patch, the 3.15 patch that we'll be playing on. And I'd like to start by asking you, we had the huge vision overhaul in 3.14, and there were some tweaks now. Tell us about that.
Well, the scrying orb and the sweeping lens has both been reduced to 2 minutes. And at the same time now with the scrying orb, when you use it, the range is bigger. And if you do spot a champion with it, you will reveal him for 5 seconds.
So the main issue basically was that people were not using the blue trinket as much. Froggen, has these changes made you use it more?
Personally, I haven't used the blue trinket more. I think it's only useful on a few champions because it still has too long cooldown. Like on Caitlyn, for example, has really high range. Normally, when you're team fighting and it's late game, if you don't have any vision, you want to put your yellow trinket in the bush so you have a ward there so you gain vision of them. You can get the blue trinket as Caitlyn instead so you don't have to go as close and you can always keep vision of them. At the same time, that vision you get from the blue trinket, it actually allows you to use your ultimate on a target that's slow or something, so that's really, really useful in Caitlyn for late game, for example.
Pro tip by Froggen. You got anything to add?
Well, personally, I prefer to deny vision from the enemy than gaining more vision myself. So I still prefer the sweeping lens, and I think it's a lot stronger than the scrying orb. So I expect to see more sweeping lenses than Scrying Ops today.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of new strategies, the use of the trinkets. And Froggen, of course, we're going to see Yasuo, or maybe he'll be 100% banned. We don't know. An amazing new champion coming into the league, an 80 melee assassin. What have been your first thoughts in playing him?
I think his snowball's really, really hard. If he has a free lane and he gets to static shift, he can almost outlane anyone because he just has that much power, because his passive basically gives him double the crit, but the crit's weaker. But it doesn't matter that much because every second auto attack when you get static shift is pretty much a crit. When that happens, you can outtrade anyone pretty much, so that's like the first rush item. For the second item, I usually go for Infinity Edge, and it gives me like 90% crit chance unless I have 5% in runes as well, which gives me 100%. So basically I have Static Shiv and Infinity Edge. With only 2 items, I can basically just sweep the enemy team if they don't have any CC. It's pretty strong.
You seem to be quite excited about him. Is the mid lane where you think he's strongest?
I think when he can farm up is where he's strongest. If it's against a weak top laner, or if it's against a mid laner where you can just keep spamming your E and the minion waves to judge the abilities, I think both ways are strong, but he needs to farm up first.
Okay. Well, guys, the first match that will be coming up here, it is an amazing game to start everything off. Fnatic taking on Gambit. Let me start by asking your thoughts about that matchup.
Well, personally, I feel like Gambit is stronger right now, but Fnatic has a lot to prove. They need to show that all the results they had here in the preseason is not how they are. So for me, seeing Fnatic come in now and showing some real bloodlust or something to really show off they are the strongest team in Europe is going to be very exciting to see.
Hagen, what do you think about the matchup?
I think Fnatic has the advantage, and I can base that on scrims. I'm not going to say how it went for other team, but I would say Fnatic is the strongest team based on that.
Okay, not revealing any secrets yet. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good luck later in your matchup. Good luck on your first cast later. And now we need to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll be kicking off the first match of the 2014 LCS with the latest chapter in the storied rivalry between Fnatic and Gambit. The road to the Summoners Cup for the EU LCS begins in just 3.5 minutes. Don't go anywhere.